Honestly, this is a bit late because we have been in 2.3 patch for like 2 weeks already, but I think it's still gonna be an interesting topic to know after a year which character that I think the most valuable and which character that you don't even really need to pull. Hello guys, Shin here. So for today's video, let's talk a bit about rerun banners. So after my recent video, I see that we've got a lot of new players in Wuthering Waves. I think it thanks to the anniversary patch and also the new player event. So I think it's gonna be a good video for new players to know which characters that you should pull, or I think it's good enough to boost your progression in the endgame content. Basically what I'm gonna do in this video, I'm gonna put a rank from 10 to 1. 10 is basically the lowest priority. 1 is the character that I think the best or better to pull than the other, based on my experience as a player that own every single character in Wuthering Waves at a 0R1. With the exception of Yinlin because I just don't really like her gameplay. But yeah, keep in mind I'm not really a math person. I don't have a spreadsheet. I don't have the formula to find out which character is the best damage dealer here. So in this video, it's pretty much just gonna be my personal experience, so don't take my words for granted because everyone has their own experience with the character. Some people might like Jinshi, Carlotta because they just simply nuke everything without having to try hard with their operational skill, while some people probably just like Changli more because of quick swap gameplay. So without further ado, let's start with number 10 on the list. Number 10, Juju. Now before you guys Juju fans mad about it, obviously there's a reason for this. First of all, her best teammates as for now are Carlotta and Jinshi, and I'm gonna be real with you, even though Juju buffs their damage significantly, you don't really need her to make Carlotta or Jinshi function properly, at least to clear PoE. It's quite unfortunate for Juju here because these two characters are really strong by their own, except Jinshi for obvious reason. For Jinshi, however, there are plenty of alternatives that you can use, such as Wu or Mortefi for free-to-play options, and also other 5-star like Yinlin or Cancharilla. Obviously, they are not the best teammates for Jinshi, but they still get the job done. The only reason why you wanna pull for Juju is if you want to simplify your rotation with Jinshi and Carlotta, because without Juju, you basically have to swap back. Let's say you play Jinshi with Wu for example, you have to constantly swap back to use his E-skill. And for Carlotta without Juju, the F2P options is gonna be touchy here, but her rotation is extremely slow and clunky, so the best scenario is to use her in a dual DPS setup, which encourage you to do quick swap. So if you wanna play in a simple hyper carry rotation, then yeah, you might need Juju. But again, in my personal opinion, I think support in this game doesn't matter too much due to quick swap, and I guess that is one of the reasons why Kuro go with this route using negative status, which I'm not really a fan of. But still, for older characters like Jinshi and Carlotta, there are plenty of teammates, plenty of gameplay rotation that you can do, so Juju is not really a must to have. Number 9, Yinlin. Honestly, the more I put these waifus in the lower rank, the more scared I am because people just gonna cancel me. Almost the exact same reason as Juju, her best teammates as for now is Xiangliao and Calcaro due to a specific reason that she buffs electro damage and resonance liberation damage, which is the main damage output of Xiangliao and Calcaro. But again, even without Yinlin, these two characters are still playable just fine. Unless you wanna use Calcaro here, which has quite a bit of low damage, then sure, you might need Yinlin. That being said, she has quite a huge AoE, so unlike Juju, she is usable to use in Wuthering Waves, especially if you have her signature weapons, which is the best rectifier weapon in the entire game, so she can do a little bit of damage by her own. Actually, you might want to pull for her weapon more instead of the character, to be honest, so my personal opinion, she is not a must to pull, but still deserves a better spot, at least a bit on top of Juju. Number 8, Rosia. My initial plan was to put her on the higher rank, probably like top 3 or even top 2 here, because she is one of the best units to use in Wuthering Waves among all of the other characters on this list. But seeing that Kuro keeps tuning down the difficulty in Wuthering Waves, I think her value kinda jump off the cliff here. Because you can basically use anyone and still get triple S easily with the current difficulty in Wuthering Waves. There was a moment where Kuro kinda fucked up with the token in Wuthering Waves, I think it was around 2.2 patch, and Rosia helped me a lot during that time, because I still get like 7k points while a lot of people struggle to get 4.5k. Some good players still got triple S with 5 or maybe 5.5k, so you can tell at that time 7k was a lot, and that is thanks to Camellia and Rosia. So unless we have the same difficulty as 2.2 Wuthering Waves, I don't think there's any reason for you to pull for Rosia, even if you wanna pull her for Camellia, because Sanhua is more than enough to fill that role. And the best thing about Sanhua is she is completely free. Another crazy thing about Sanhua is that her rotation is extremely fast. She's probably only second to Verina. And the reason why this is important because fast rotation means you can spend most of your time doing damage with your main damage dealer here, which is Camellia, instead of wasting your time filling up the Concerto. So unless you wanna aim for both Rosia and her weapon so that she can deal a little bit of damage by her own, Sanhua and Camellia is just gonna make a huge damage gap due to faster rotation. So yeah, unfortunately for Rosia fans, I have to put her on the lower rank here. Number 7. Changli. Subjectively speaking, Changli is probably my most favorite character right now, not only in terms of design, but also in terms of gameplay, because for me, she is the character that defines Wuthering Waves' unique of gameplay, which is Quickswap. But unfortunately, Quickswap is not easy to master, and when I say master, I mean to use it optimally, like doing the right timing for your auto buff, so that it basically buffs your nuke damage. For example, in a normal Quickswap, you just simply swap back between 3 characters, right? You essentially losing auto buff if you accidentally swap to the wrong character. But when you do it optimally, you are not losing the benefit of the auto buff. For example, let's say you use Bran and Changli quick swap here, you slowly build their Concerto and Forte with quick swap at the same time, and then after you fill up Changli's Concerto, you swap to Bran, use his Anchor to deal damage with Changli's auto buff, which then also fills up Bran's Concerto here. And then after that, you swap back to Changli and use her ultimate heavy attack to utilize Bran's auto buff. So basically, we do quick swap to fill their Concerto and Forte gauge, but also on top of that, you also swap at the right timing to utilize the auto buff correctly. And this is what I mean by the optimized quick swap rotation. If you can do this, or at the very least just a normal quick swap, Changli is without a doubt the most versatile unit to use in both DOA and Wuthering Waves. But unfortunately for casuals and maybe some of mobile players, this might not be easy to pull off, and even I sometimes mess up the rotation, and without quick swap her damage is just significantly lower. So unfortunately I have to put her in middle priority here, unless you are willing to learn about quick swap. Number 6. Xiangliao. Honestly, he's not that bad, but the thing is, he's a free unit, so unless you miss the patch where Kuro gave him for free, I don't think anybody should pull for him, even for his sequences. Unless you are well, obviously, or maybe you just a Xiangliao sim or something. But if you don't have him, he's still a decent pick, nothing special in his kit that makes him a unit that you must pull over the other DPS, other than the fact that he has a big AoE and also slow down the enemy with his ultimate attack. The reason why I put him number 6 better than Changli, because at the very least, he is easier to use than Changli here. You can play him in hypercarry rotation with Yinlin, and you can also do quick swap rotation if you want to. So his teammates are not limited to just Yinlin. And he's also a good unit in both DOA and Wuthering Waves. So again, he's not a must-to-have character, but if you really need an electro damage dealer, or maybe a character that's quite decent in both endgame content, then yeah, he's a good pick in that aspect. Number 5. Bran. If you need a one-man army that can deal damage, heal, tank, and also buff your main DPS at the same time, he is him. Great unit for quick swap, great unit for survivability, but as always, every characters always have their own downsides, and for Bran, he is expensive as fuck. If you cannot afford his weapon, he's probably gonna be number 10 on the list, because his damage is just gonna be significantly lower, and so basically without his weapon, you're just gonna use him as a support. But if you can afford his weapon, he's capable to be a main DPS for Fusion team, and also the best partner for Changli optimized quick swap team. Another plus point for him, assuming that we're gonna have more content like Virtual Crisis, or maybe content that requires survivability, Bran is without a doubt gonna trivialize those content. So obviously he's a good unit for people who worry about their skill issue. But if our main focus is endgame content like DOA and Wuthering Waves, he is decent to use, but still not the best unit. The biggest reason why you wanna pull for him is if you want to use Changli in hypercarry rotation, or you just simply want to optimize your Changli quick swap rotation. And honestly, if you can use Changli quick swap to begin with, there are other alternatives that you can use here, such as Xiangliao, who is more cheaper to build. So again, he's not a must to have in meta perspective, but nonetheless, he's still the only unit right now that can do everything you want. Number 4. Jinshi. She's one of the best damage dealer for single target bosses, second to none, and also a unit with a lot of flexibility in her team building. Just like what I mentioned before, you can pair her with Yuanwu, you can pair her with Yinlin, Mortefi. As long as you pair her with coordinate attack support with different elements, like those characters for example, she's gonna do just fine in TOA. However, my personal experience using Jinshi for Wuthering Waves is quite unpleasant here. Because she's airborne most of the time, it's quite tricky to have a better positioning in order to aim your beam or your ultimate properly. The good thing is her AoE is big enough to cover the entire waves, but to be able to use her in Wuthering Waves, you might need a second DPS to cover her downtime, because obviously you cannot continuously use her Dragon Beam for every single wave. So for me, she's kinda hard to use in Wuthering Waves, but for TOA, without a doubt she's gonna delete every single enemy that has no spectral resistance. Number 3. Jian. If you still remember what I said during the intro of the video, power creep almost doesn't even exist in Wuthering Waves. And when I said that, I'm not even joking. Right now, quote-unquote the hardest endgame content we have is arguably Wuthering Waves. I'm not talking about a hologram because hologram is just a one-time thing, and it doesn't give you asteroid income, so it is what it is. Even though it's still quite easy to clear Wuthering Waves, you still need to consider about crowd control here, unlike in TOA where you only fight against single target unit most of the time. And guess who is the best character that can clear both TOA and Wuthering Waves easily on this list? Our old 1.0 General Jian. Obviously he's not the fastest character to clear bosses like Carlota and Jinshi, but he still gets the job done. And on top of that, for Wuthering Waves, same thing like Rosia, you don't have to worry about crowd control anymore. You just press ultimate, and there you go, another easy ass rank. Another plus point for him is that his team is really cheap to build. You only need Mortefi, which is a 4-star character, a healer like Farida or Shorekeeper, and that is pretty much gonna be his best team. So even after a year, he is without a doubt still a beginner friendly unit, really cheap to build with low difficulty operational skill. That is quite good in both TOA and Wuthering Waves. Number 2. Carlota. High damage output and long range attack makes her one of the easiest unit to use and also one of the best unit to clear bosses in TOA, second to Jinshi. Her long animation makes her a good unit to use for quick swap, and because of that, it enables more units that you can use alongside with her other than Cheche, which is her best in sword support. However, I would say the only drawback of her is that she is also quite tricky to use in Wuthering Waves because her ultimate attack is a straight line attack instead of big circle AoE. So you need to have a good positioning in order to deal collateral damage with her Resonance Liberation. But unlike Jinshi, at the very least, she is not airborne all the time, so it's easier to aim. And without a doubt, in my perspective, she's in a better position here because she's one of the best units for TOA and also a decent character for Wuthering Waves in quick swap rotation. Number 1. Before I say the reason why she deserves this spot, let's talk about her downside first. First of all, she's really dependent on Spectral Frazzle, and unlike Jinshi, character with Spectral Frazzle is quite limited as for now, so there aren't that many characters that you can use to pair with Phoebe. Another downside of her Spectral Frazzle is just that bad to use in Wuthering Waves, because you have to reapply Frazzle every single waves, and it's just a complete waste of time. So even though she has crowd control and big AoE, nobody really use her as a DPS for Wuthering Waves unless you have Zani and potentially Shakona to reapply Frazzle every single wave. Now for obvious reason why she is top priority, because again, character with negative status are extremely limited as for now, and not just as a support, you can also use her as a main DPS with Spectral Rover. And the best thing about using her as a main DPS is that her team is extremely cheap to build. You only need Rover and another healer, let's say Farina or Shorekeeper, and that is pretty much it. You can pair her with Sanhua for example just to activate Moonlit Cloud faster, and she's still gonna deal COA just as fast as any other premium unit. And another plus point for her is that she is the best support for Zani, the newest character we have right now, and also somewhat viable for Carpetia because Arrow Rover can convert those Spectral Frazzle from PB to Arrow Erosion. So if you want a character that can do both carry and be a Spectral Frazzle support, I don't think there is any reason why you would want to skip her. That being said, everyone has their own priorities and different kind of investments, so again, don't take my words for granted. For example, even though I put JoJo as number 10 on the list, she is still objectively the best support for Jinchi and Carlota here, which is our top 5 characters in this list. And if you're a Jinchi main or maybe like Carlota main, you probably still gonna need her. For me, I like quick swapping the most, so characters like Changli, Xiangliao, and Bran here is gonna be my top priority on the list. And also Kartithia is literally in the next patch banner, so even though Jian is like number 3 on the list, it's really hard to say if you should pull for him, assuming that Kartithia is just gonna be a better arrow unit. So always invest accordingly to what you have and what you don't have. And as always, if this video helped you make your decision for which character that you wanna pull, then consider like, comment, and subscribe, and I see you guys next time.